right.
Great. Okay, guys, as we were introduced, is the good times over? Is the gold rush done and complete, or is it a question of the landscape changing? John, can you start us off? What's your point of view?
I mean, my point of view is that mobile games are just getting bigger. So I've got a long view. I started out making games when we were making them in J2ME, like really long time ago, and people thought that was a flash in the pan. And then Flash games came online, and people thought, okay, that's the next sort of thing. And then the first set of mobile games were premium games, and then we discovered free to play, and then mid-core games are kind of the big money makers now. And I think we've yet to see the beginning of even harder core games coming, which of course in the rest of gaming has very dedicated fans and people who spend a lot of time and a lot of money. So I don't see it plateauing or dipping.
Yeah. Branko, same opinion, or?
Yeah, so I mean, I've got just things to add, nothing to like question. There's a lot of well-backed by data analysis around where mobile gaming is, where it's heading. We're talking about 65 billion in revenue in about 3 years from now, where actually mobile gaming is going to be the absolute winner of the entertainment categories, including other types of gaming platforms, but also movies, music, etc. So I think like there is tons of opportunity going forward, but there is also the reality that the area is getting crowded, and the bar is being lifted up. So in order to enter the market and be successful, things have changed compared to maybe 8-9 years ago when we started, and it was really like blue ocean, blank canvas. You just go paint something. If it's good, you're in. Now it's harder, and I think like the consolidation overall is gonna change the industry dramatically over the next 3 to 5 years. Fortunately, there is AR coming in, maybe mobile VR. So there's like some new extensions of the platform or new platforms, which are probably again going to give new opportunities to some new guys from the garage to like fulfill their dreams. Yeah.
Well, it's not new. I mean, Rovio, John, you mentioned Rovio is a great example many years ago still. It took a lot of iteration to get to Angry Birds. It's iteration even now. How do companies actually navigate to be able to find the killer hits, venture-backed or not?
Right. Well, I think that what you're saying is the critical difference is that it is just way more crowded. So you don't have the same years and years to iterate. So it's important to have experienced developers on your team, and for better or for worse, compared to making games for the console market, where making good games and having a publisher could help you, you also have to have good monetization people on your team, which is new in the entertainment industry. Typically, for decades, whether it's movies, TV, whatever, you had the distribution and marketing side separate from the creative side, and you don't have to have those skill sets married in your mobile game company.
Right. You agree? I mean, yeah, we're seeing a lot of companies flopping right now a little bit who can't adapt. So I'm seeing from my position that you really need to have the right team. But even that gets even tougher and tougher as the market gets saturated. Are you having a hard time getting good talent at this point?
Yeah, so that's kind of the consequence for the existing players of the thing I mentioned before. So the bar is going up, and you're going to need more money, bigger or like higher quality teams, depending on what is the type of actually and/or higher quality, depending on the genre. And then even like the marketing bar to enter and become relevant, surpass the critical mass if you want. We're talking about budgets, which you need to be in a healthy state as a company to be able to like commit. So essentially the bar is going up, and then some companies are gonna make it, some are not, but nothing uncommon to any other industry which is maturing like with time.
Yeah. And John, you mentioned it's not just a question of the landscape changing, it's also a question of the hardware accelerating and getting more and more powerful.
Right. I mean, I think in many ways your mobile phone is becoming as powerful as a console device, and it's got Bluetooth so that it can hook up to a controller. It's got Wi-Fi so it can pull stuff down. It's got great processing power. So when you hook these things up to TV, it gives you way more screen real estate, and I think there are whole types of games that we haven't discovered on mobile yet that are, here, are coming. What I would say is that I predicted before that mobile would be sort of overtake the current console platforms, and I've been completely blown away that PlayStation 4 has sold 60 million units. Didn't expect that at all. So I'd say within the context of what you're saying, about mobile overtaking the games industry and entertainment, which is very true. What's striking to me is that video gaming in general is thriving on every platform right now. It really is the dominant form of entertainment for millennials.
Mm. Yeah. Branko, when you guys are targeting users, are you now looking more and more into niche, almost profiles that are not even gamers, to kind of convert them into kind of taking their hobby and gamifying it?
Correct, but again, like with our main product, which is a football management simulation, that approach makes a lot of sense because our gamers or players are dominantly football fans, and then not necessarily gamers in broader sense. But I guess like every company, so we do that, yeah. But I guess every company really needs, especially in the years to come, needs to figure out like who is their audience and like what are the experiences these people need and want. And we've already seen that in mobile, where the top grossing charts are starting to change. For the first time, I would say after
it's been static for like 5 years.
Yeah, and now it's there are some new entrants coming in, not only from China but like in general, which are bringing experiences which are maybe tailored to a more specific audience, and they are very demanding in terms of the investment in it to put time.
All right, so Amir, I've got a question for my colleague here.
Go ahead.
So are you designing games primarily around whales, the people who spend the most money? Are you creating multiple experiences for sort of, different sort of fan groups or different sort of skill sets?
So we do the other thing. We are not focused on whales, and we actually try to provide experience for even people that are never going to pay. But that is tied into, again, like the genre and the fact that our community is huge. So for a football game or soccer game, you really thrive on a large, loyal community that you want to make sure is happy. And then, to your point, there are ways where you can customize the experience for different groups of users within the game. But then again, like there is that's our case. But there is many examples. Probably Machine Zone is the best example. I wouldn't say like the best approach, but the best example of the other approach
of whale hunting,
where they are focused only on people that they're gonna extract a lot of revenues from. They don't really care about anybody else. So and it works.
Yeah.
To some extent, right? So.
How much of a priority is localization then when you're looking for these new audiences, getting a relationship with them, and then extracting those whales or pulling them out?
It is, in our experience, it is actually critically important. If, again, like your audience is really global and you want to make a large community, which we do with football across the globe. So we've got both users and paying users in pretty much every country of the world. And then in some of these places, being localized, not only in terms of translation, but context, even like how they live football can be really important to make a difference. And we've seen that there are some players in, for example, Germany, as in like gaming companies, which are very local focused on like only German market. And they do really well because the market is good enough. So football in Germany. And then what we try to do is like compete with them, but also compete with anybody else locally. And you need to put some effort into that
Right.
to be able to compete.
So one of the key things, or one of the key transformations in the mobile game market has been from sort of single-player experiences to multiplayer experiences and continuous live operations, where you're kind of, the business term is merchandising to them, but you're creating new opportunities. And so in order to have a fun multiplayer experience, you have to have lots of people on all the time. So it's important to localize because you want to have, nobody wants to come to a nightclub that feels empty. And so at any time of day when somebody shows up in your game, you want it to feel lively. And that's why the best games are completely global,
Right.
play fields.
And are you seeing any of this multiplayer action on the mobile side also going into esports as well, or is esports more or less on the other side of platforms, not mobile?
Well, I think we're so early in esports. Like it's obviously gotten a lot of attention, and it's looking like it's a big industry. So I think when you look at something like PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, which it's not a mobile game, but it's sort of moving beyond the League of Legends style of play, which is in many ways still shares a lot of characteristics with arcade play. So I think it's still early before we have the sort of multiplayer experiences you see in console or PC right now.
Right.
But I think sports is a fantastic opportunity for multiplayer.
It is, and I'd also like to add that I don't see how. I mean, maybe there is a way, but I don't see how, if mobile games do become what John said and what I think as well, kind of mainstream, even like a device that you can plug into whatever, etc. So I don't see how the generations that are going to grow up with these devices and are going to be fans and gamers of certain titles within these devices, like how is that not going to also become esports thing? Because like the size of the audience that is interested in seeing that or following that is going to be significantly larger than the one of the in a few years niche PC and console titles. Even now, like League of Legends and Strike of Kings, I don't know like what is the current name of basically the same game on mobile. So the audience on a mobile game, even though it's only in China, is already significantly bigger than League of Legends audience globally. So.
And how about the hobbyist indie developers who kind of sneak out of nowhere? Are you watching your back for these unpredictable titles to just pop in? Or is it the same as, let's say, 3 years ago? Is it the same story?
So I think like there's always going to be people who are going to try to make it with a lot of novelty around genre, user experience, setting, whatever. And there's going to be a niche that they're going to hit, and that's going to happen. It's been happening since ever. It's going to happen forever. I wish like more of these guys succeed, but again, like because of the bar, I'm not sure like what is the percentage we're talking about in a few years.
Right.
Simply because you go to the App Store now, and it's so crowded. Like
So I'd say the good news. So one, I'm a huge fan of indie developers, and I, love to see them succeed. As the market gets bigger and bigger, what you'd consider a niche play is still big enough to sustain a business and an audience. Like, you can still be doing pretty good from top 50 to 100 or even top 100 to 200. And then the challenge for them is, can they really build something big and build a big audience? But because of the proliferation of devices, if you have some thing that you're excited about that you don't think is met in gaming, and you can build a small fan base, you can make gaming a career and a business.
Right. But VC-backed studios probably increasingly have the advantage in a landscape that is saturated, or not necessarily?
I don't, you know, there's still stuff that comes out of nowhere, but one way or another, you know, he's very correct that you just need more resources. It's like other forms of media. You can make an unboxing video on YouTube and become an influencer star, but that's a whole different market, and you can earn your living. You don't have the money to make, you know, Star Wars, so you just can't compete in that area. And there's a bunch of levels of gradation, and I still think it's a great opportunity if you are creator first, who's excited about something and then has the skills to execute it well. Still need to figure out how to monetize. Like, you know, there's no business that's like completely easy for hobbyists.
Okay.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, so fully agree. And if you actually like look at current, you know, spending of mobile game developers / publishers, majority of that goes into user acquisition or marketing in a broader sense. So I mean, there is opportunity if you monetize, you know, good enough, and you manage to, you know, push your product without significant marketing investments, which, you know, is possible, maybe through an IP or whatever. Like, so there are ways. Then you actually, you know, stand a fair chance regardless of the capital you've raised.
Right.
Because again, like you can raise 100 million and burn all of that into user acquisition, paying, you know, $30 per user, which, you know, some companies do. And like, then what? If, you know, they don't stick around, they don't spend.
Right.
Yeah.
In a crowded marketplace, IP makes a big
yeah.
difference. So we partnered with what was at the time a very, you know, young and tender company called Scopely, which is now a big video game publisher, and we brought the Walking Dead IP to that, and that really helped, you know, zombies as a general statement work in video games, but this IP really helped them, you know, get above the noise of hundreds of thousands of games, and has been, I like to think, an important part of them growing into a major video game publisher.
Right. Well, we're running out of time. You want to maybe throw out a prediction or two for the next 12, 24 months? Branko?
I think things are going to get, you know, more exciting. Quality bar is going to go up, and it's all going to benefit the end users, which are going to, you know, experience, you know, better games on their devices. Hopefully, you know, all the guys that put hard efforts are going to also make it. And but unfortunately, there is, you know, a luck component as well. So that's it. Yeah.
John?
Jeez, I mean, predicting the entertainment market's impossible. What I think is going to be interesting about mobile is the same sort of viewing patterns you see on Twitch, where you've not only got players of games, but people watching players play games on mobile.
Okay. Well, guys, thank you so much. Let's see what unfolds in the next 24 months.
Obrigado,
Thanks.
Amir.
Great.